Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. I was trying to hook up another computer and it just didn't work. So I had to quickly about face and get back to my standard. So today is July 21st, 2021. We're going to be talking about a number of things, including the latest change on F-1 applications, the credit card pilot program at the Nebraska Service Center, and some Department of State updates, chat with Charlie, and so forth. So let's give people a few moments to get going. I hope you all had a fabulous week, and I look forward to telling you more about how you can achieve your immigration objective and reach your destination, right? That's what we are all here for. And it is a trying process. So let's get started. So the USCIS eliminated the bridge applications for F-1 change of status. This is big news, not only for F-1 change of status people, but it's the signal that this administration is really trying to improve processes and streamline them. So for those of you who don't know, when an F-1 applies for a change of status, there are certain time frames in which they need to apply. They have to apply before a certain period, but not earlier than a certain period. So a lot of times F-1 students, because of the very long processing times for I-539s, same form that's used for extension of status for H-4s and Ls, they've had to resort to bridging, which is trying to have another status in between, like a B1 or B2, a B2, while their F-1 is getting processed. So they no longer will have to apply for a change or extension of status while their F-1 application is pending. It eliminates the need to maintain another status up to 30 days prior to the program start date on the I-20. The student still has to be in a valid unexpired status when applying for an F-1 change of status. So you still got to be in a valid status when you apply for a change of status. But the F-1 change of status effective date is the date of the I-539 approval. So if it's approved more than 30 days before the program start date, then the student must not violate the terms and conditions of their F-1 status. So this is really great. I mean, sad to report, we've had a couple of H-4s that are exploring F-1s because their H-1B spouse suddenly passed away. So while they're trying to figure out what they need to do, they are trying to enroll in an F-1 student program to give them a long-term ability to assess what the next steps are. So this is great news for them because they were worried that they'd have to file a B1 and then get on the F-1 change of status program. So this is great for them. The U.S. Nebraska Center expands the credit card pilot program. NSC started accepting credit card payments along with using the form G1450 for petitioners who are filing form I-140 with form 907 to upgrade from an I-140 to premium processing. So the pilot is limited to the Nebraska Service Center at that time. The goal is to get all the USCIS offices to accept the credit card payment. So this is great news. So you all know about the August visa bulletin release. Final action dates for EB2 didn't move for India. EB3 advanced 6 months to July 1st, 2013. EB1 remains current. Dates of filing, are expected to be what the USCIS will accept in October when the new visa numbers come out. So there's not a lot of movement, and it is predicted that there won't be a lot of movement until October for final action, dates of filing. But it gives people kind of an idea of you know, I think you can have give or take a couple of months, but it gives people a final idea of who can prepare for the October dates of filing. Now, Monday, the chat with Charlie was held, and Charlie Oppenheim, who is the head of your visa bulletin, basically. So he had talked about some employment key takeaways, such as for India, you know, EB1 final action date for September will be announced for EB3 will be January 1st, 2014. He's not at liberty to discuss the proposed language in the House Appropriations Bill for the DHS funding to recapture the unused visas in 2021. And it's subject to the change not being passed. But for dates of employment-based cases, will not become as current as they did in 2007. The current level of applicant demand is sufficient. So it's too early, he states, to predict fiscal year 2022, but is not expecting significant movement for final action dates early in the year. The family key takeaways is family-based applications haven't advanced as quickly as they had hoped due to overseas processing issues. Little, if any, forward movement is expected for final action dates, with exception of Mexico and the Philippines. We are doing, because a lot of you have asked, the Cello Law Group is doing pre-processing of I-45 cases. Now, there are 3 options, and if you're interested, please email us at info@cellolaw.com. There is filing with the case initiation only. There is case initiation and review for completeness of documentation. There is case pre-processing, and it's recommended for those dates who will be current under dates for filing. So there are 3 different levels, if you will, and the fee structure is based on the levels. So that someone who just wants it initiated but is not sure that it will be accepted for dates of filing, you know, they can do that on a lower fee structure. Initiation and asking us to review the documentation will be a little more, and then of course pre-preparing would be the full fee. Adjustment of status, I wanted to go over, oh my gosh, there is a bug that is getting in my face. Go over some of the things we talked about before, amendment versus downgrade and things like that. So I'm going to try to pull up a PowerPoint so I can share that with you. And let me see. Okay, I think Kara said that she updated it on, got a link. There we go. I'm trying to pull it up, and then I will share it with all of you. Here we go. Let's see if it pulls it up now. It is, the computer's going crazy. If Kara can tell me where she saved it on our Teams, I can use my, I think she may have. Because I don't see it on our on the Teams laptop, and I don't know where. it would be, and Teams is going crazy. So whatever link you sent, it's not working. So if you could, Kara, maybe you can, I don't know if I have to. Show our webinar resources under Teams. Let's see if I can find it again. Webinar resources. There we go. It is coming up now. See, it's opened it up on, yes, it has. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sometimes technology just doesn't, is not your friend. So just to get through some, if you have, there we go. This was in October 7th, so I'm just gonna advance it so we can, and of course there's ways to connect with us, so please do. Here are recordings for, you know, previous webinars. If you haven't liked us, then do that. So I'm gonna advance it so we can, these are AJAT issues. So I'm going to have Kara share the link in case any of you are interested in some of the other topics discussed in this. Okay, so for a lot of people keep asking, should I still amend or should I file a new petition? Well, first of all, with a PERM, you can file, for most cases, if you qualify for EB2, you can file for EB3 as well. So a lot of people keep saying, well, we don't know, the numbers may move. Should we file a new I-140 downgrade? I say yes, because you don't know how the numbers will be moving. We haven't seen a substantial move in EB2. We don't know if we'll see one within the next couple of months. So I always say file a new petition. That way you have the EB2 and the EB3. If you amend, you no longer have the EB2, and you'll have to amend back. But if you file a new petition, you get to preserve both. And if you have CSPA issues, so check out this webinar. If you haven't, it will help with the CSPA issues. So in 2007, the USCIS stated that, this is when the PERM regulations just came out, that as long as the original PERM was filed within 6 months, even if that subsequent PERM is revoked or there's some other issue, you can, as long as there's nothing wrong with the PERM in and of itself, it can be used again. So it's the timely filing of it within 6 months from certification preserves the PERM. So if a new petition is required because your company has been acquired by another company, you can use the PERM and just file an amended petition. If the petitioning employer wishes to file a new petition because there was a denial or revocation of an abandonment of a previously filed petition, and the labor certification, the PERM in and of itself was not invalid in any capacity, then they can refile. You can, an amended petition can be used to request a different visa classification. And if the previously filed I-140 has been lost by the Department of the USCIS Department of State, then you can refile. So the regulations are there to refile. You still have to meet the PERM requirements for a downgrade. So you have to make sure that the evidence aligns with the previous PERM. You can't just reference your other I-140. You have to submit the documentation. So the definition of a professional is someone who holds at least a bachelor's degree, at least, or foreign equivalent degree, who is a member of professions. So as long as the requirement is either a bachelor's degree or higher, then it qualifies for an EB3. So a lot of people get confused and think, oh, but we got a classification for an EB2 because it was a master's degree. Well, that in and of itself, that's fine. So not all EB2s qualify for EB3. I'm sorry, not all EB3s qualify for EB2, but all EB2s qualify for EB3. So if you're trying to leverage a petition with the previous employer, remember, there's got to be a bona fide job offer. You can't just fake it. You must, at the time of filing, intend. So you have to have the present intent. That intent can change later. Remember, AC 21 allows you to have some flexibility in that. But at least at the time of filing, you should have the present intent. And what I tell people is, if you have email exchanges with your previous employer, talking about how you're going to join them, then you can do that. You don't need to work for the employer until the green card is approved. But nevertheless, there are some issues that you need to think about. Number one, you can always interfile if you've got an EB2 or EB3. Alerting the USCIS of an approved I-140 in a different category without refiling the adjustment. You can do that. It's simple. And for the attorneys that are telling you you can't do it, it's probably because they don't know how. But it's very straightforward. Second, remember, whether it's with a previous employer or with your current employer, every time you file an I-140, you've got to prove ability to pay. So you have to make sure, if you haven't been working for the employer, that you have the evidence to prove ability to pay. AC portability, if you file a new I-140, the clock starts over, right? So you've had a previous I-140 filed and the 45 has been pending, the I-140 is approved. If you downgrade now, that 180 days for the adjustment to be pending starts ticking again. If that's the I-140 you're going to use for the adjustment. So in a case of an interfiling, it won't happen just by filing the I-140, but when you interfile, then the AC 21 dates start ticking over again. So that's one thing to think about with interfiling. If the EB3 is denied, you can refile the I-140. Let's say that if you do a concurrent filing coming up this September, and you're downgrading and you're filing an adjustment of status. So a lot of people say, what's the risk? You can refile the I-140, but the adjustment of status needs to have a valid I-140 to live. So those fees, you will be out of those fees. So people always say, what's the risk? I say that if this was my immigration process, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything. I'm not going to take the easy road or try to save a couple of bucks here and there. I'm going to make sure that I use all the ammunition that I have to make sure that I'm successful on the outcome. Adjustment of status documentation. This is just some of the things that I thought you may find interesting. Like I said, if you want to do that, you can take a look at our webinar that I'm sure folks have put up, and use that for your I-140. And then let's see. And then I wanted to share something else with you guys. My mouse is okay, doing some crazy things. Here we go. Like I said, technology. You can live with it, and we have to, I guess. So you have to kind of deal with all the issues that relate to that. So we're going to get started with our Q&A shortly. Remember, post all your questions on the Q&A and not on the chat. But before we do that, if you have not joined our Cello Law Telegram group, please do. We're always talking to the group. We had a Telegram live, just a question and answer last Thursday, where it was great. I was talking to folks and just kind of, what are your questions? What do you need? They told me that there was some resources they needed to show their employer. And I think we posted one of them. I'm going to post another one up there today. So if you haven't joined our Telegram community, it's a great community. It's people helping people, folks in situations just like yours. And we're also part of that. So in most of the other forum groups I've seen, in order to get information from the attorney, they require that you pay them a fee. This is free. Free. So I hope you will enjoy our Telegram group. Now, for those of you who are watching this webinar on your computer, all you have to do is take your camera up, open up your camera, and align it to the QR code, and the link will show up to join our Telegram group. Ta-da! So I hope you're going to do that. We also, if this is the first time you're joining our webinar, we have these weekly webinars every Wednesday. We've been doing that since last March, when everybody's been going through so much of their stuff. So if you haven't registered, especially for your YouTube folks, if you haven't registered for our webinar, you can do that. Same thing. You can either use the link that I'm sure my team will put up, or you can, if you're on a computer, you just need to take your camera and align it, and it will give you the webinar link. Makes it easy for you to join. So I hope you will join our webinar group. Now, as you can see, we have a chock full of information on our YouTube channel, but you're not going to know that we've updated it unless you subscribe and join our channel. And I love hearing from you. If there's something in the topics we've covered that you've liked, I'd love for you to tell us that. If there's some additional stuff you'd like us to present on, we're happy to do that. And again, just to subscribe to our channel, you take your phone up, open up your camera, line it up with a QR code, and boom, you can open it in YouTube and subscribe. So I hope you do. And like I said, we love hearing from you. And I will put this up again towards the end of our program when we seem to have suddenly a large group of people joining in. So I know that you all are interested in getting started with the Q&A. I will ask Mr. Chella to join us so that we can start with the Q&A questions and get that going.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Lakshmi, and good afternoon, everybody there. Fun part of this, not that the other is not fun, but that's more information and to take action.
Mm-hmm.
So and here is some advice for you to take the action. So let's get on with the first one. Is Michael tell us, can you renew your H-1B now if your priority date is current?
If you're trying to renew it based on the AC-21, technically you can't, but what I would do is I'd file it anyway, because if you file it and then you state, yes, there is no backlog, but there is a processing backlog, and the USCIS are taking a long time to process, and I want to make sure I have an underlying non-immigrant visa and file it that way, I think at least if anything should happen to your adjustment, God forbid, you would have a safety net. So just to recap, technically you can't, but I would, and I would put a big disclaimer on the cover letter that explains why I'm filing.
All right. Just checking to see any questions in the chat. We always love to have the questions in the Q&A box and a response when an attorney is asking for some clarification in the chat. So it just makes it easier to coordinate and relay the information. So
you're keeping track of our YouTube, if we get any questions from the YouTube live.
Kara, I think, is.
Oh, okay.
Because she did that last time, so I'm sure she's doing that, and she posts the question, you know, in the Q&A. So we follow the rules ourselves.
Excellent.
Michael has a follow-up. He says, do you think dates will retrogress materially in summer 2022, given large wastage of green card numbers? How far back do you think it would retrogress to if a similar amount of wastage occurs within this fiscal year 2022 spillover?
Agreed. I don't know how long I don't think anyone can really predict how long the retrogression is going to be or what it's going to be. We just know that it's going to happen. And there can be a lot of things that happen between now and then. So, you know, let's hope that there is some legislation. Are you looking at questions? Am I frozen now still?
No, you were for some time.
Yeah.
Now you're back.
I turned my phone. Somebody suggested you turn your phone off when you're doing something like this, so all the bandwidth. Am I frozen again?
No, not right now.
Okay. They say it's coming and going. Is it better now?
Well, I can hear you.
You can't see me?
No, I can see and hear also. I'm just saying that, you know, it's not frozen right now.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to the next one from an anonymous attendee. My visa status is STEM OPT, and currently I'm working. I want to travel to India. Is there any travel ban for STEM OPT status to travel to India?
Well, you know, we always suggest that our OPT folks don't travel during that time. I mean, if it's your first year, it depends on which year it is on your STEM OPT. And hopefully you've got a valid visa, so you don't have to worry about that. If you are going to do that, make sure you take pay stubs, make sure you take a letter confirming your employment from your employer. And have that letter state that you're going on vacation or leave for a certain period of time, and that you will be coming back and resuming your employment.
Okay. The next one is from another anonymous attendee. I-485 EB2 to EB3 downgrade transferred from NBC to Texas to NBC. My final action date is current since March. Any thoughts? While transferring happening between NBC, it will happen. I think this is the same question we answered last time too. It was the same question they asked, will it be system online or document that will courier each transfer time? I think we answered this question last time, so.
And keep checking with either with Emma, or we've got a YouTube video that talks about other ways you can contact USCIS to see what's going on with your file.
Next one is also from another AA. Got notice from USCIS that case initial review completed and transferred to NBC back. Is it a good sign?
Yes.
All right, next one from another AA. Thank you for the service to the community. My wife has been waiting for her H4 EAD renewal for a few months now. At the same time, we filed for 485 last October, downgrade, and we have received the AOS EAD. Currently, she works in H4 EAD, which is expiring on September 5th. If she uses her AOS EAD, what happens to our pending H4 and H4 EAD application?
Nothing. It's no problem. And H4, can you either use the EAD from the adjustment or use the EAD from their H4 process, and using one or the other does not impact their status in any way.
I just want to complete what this person said. Once she gets her H4 EAD approved, can she move back on H4 EAD for work purposes? Note that I'm still maintaining my H1B and not using AOS EAD.
Right. So just so everybody knows what the rules are about using in EAD, you have the primary H1B. So the H1B is connected to their current employer, right? So you can't work for anyone else but your current employer to maintain your H1B. So the question is not whether you use your H1B to work or your EAD. The question is whether you've worked for somebody other than your H1B employer. Okay, so that's issue number one. Issue number two, for the H4, it doesn't matter because their status is connected to the H1B. Their status is not connected to their EAD. EAD is a mechanism in which they work. Status is dictated by the relationship with the H1B. As long as the H1B is valid, the H4 is valid. So really your spouse does not have to shift back. I mean, they can, they'd have to probably get I-9'd again, but they don't really need to shift back on their H4 EAD in order to remain in valid H4 status.
All right. The next one is from another AA. With more than 100,000 EB green cards said to be wasted this year, what initiatives could we take to bring this issue to the forefront and force the USCIS to maximize usage?
Right. I've put together over the past week some data, and what I'll do is, if you're part of our Telegram group, and if you're not, please join. And my memo, I'm going to upload on the Telegram group. As non-immigrants, really, you don't have a lot of influence with legislators because you can't vote. But I'm sure a lot of you have US citizen friends. So what you do is you corral in trying to get a lot of your US citizen friends to understand the issue. And I'm going to lay it out very clearly. I've looked at things other people have said, and I don't think that they really make the argument so people can understand why all of this is very significant. So, you know, what I would say is make sure you share that with as many people as you can. So it lays out what the argument is. And I'm also going to include some really good tips that the Cato Institute published about how they can streamline processes and actually process more AOS applications so that they don't get wasted.
Okay. Next one is from another AA. What are your thoughts on the final rule in the spring regulatory agenda for expansion of premium processing? Any expected timelines for implementation?
No, I mean, I know that now that they've got a USCIS, a person that's leading the agency, they didn't have that until I think the Senate hearings were in May, and she may have been sworn in June. So I think you will see that that's actually number one on her agenda, is to streamline processes and to clear the backlog. So we hope that we'll be able to see it soon. It takes a bit of time when you just first start with I mean, she's got a lot of experience, but it will still take some time to, you got to have resources, you got to have people. So I think, based on the recruitment of new individuals to help with the surge that will take place, we can hopefully to see it before the end of this year.
Next one is from another AA. I'm pursuing part-time masters. With I-485 AOS EAD, can I work as teaching assistant at a university for a stipend-tuition waiver along with my full-time job? Are there any restrictions in general for a second part-time job of any kind?
No, what you would want to do is, instead of you need to have that institution file a concurrent part-time H-1B for you for the hours you're going to work. So as long as they file that, then you can work for both.
All right. Next one is from Sagar Kulkarni. Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am, for your continued support. Any idea when your JADU is expected to be confirmed by the Senate? Will that make any improvements to USCIS processing time? I don't know what your JADU is talking about. Maybe
he's talking about the
you created some magic, or you will create some magic. I hope that's what.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the USCIS director, and I believe, and Kara can correct me, I thought that the director was confirmed. So Kara can let me know but that's who I think that's who he's.
Yeah, he says that's right. In the chat, he says right. So I don't know when I said maybe you creating some magic, he said right, or whether when you said director, he said right.
But I think the agency, we can see snippets of major changes that are taking place internally. So, it's only been 6 months, so we've got to have a little patience. I know this is a critical time, so it's hard to have the patience. But for those of you who have not read the Cato Institute's implementation, then you should really read that, because it's got some really great ways the USCIS can streamline processing. And I think the gentleman who was asking about working, okay, if you work on your AOS EAD, I'm not sure if you are on an H-1B, but if you work for an employer other than your H-1B employer, then your H-1B is no longer valid. So that's the thing.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Anonymous attendee, with Congresswoman Meng's amendment, many websites are saying that spillover will be blocked from FB to EB. Will it be both 2020 and 2021?
Right, it's not that simple of a response. I mean, some will be clearly, look at the calculation, which I put forth a couple of weeks ago. So on one aspect, we don't know if they're going to utilize any unused, right? So this actually allows them to use the unused employment based. Yes, the unused family base won't be allocated to us, but if they don't use any, then it's not going to hurt you or do anything at all. So that's the key.
Okay. These are some questions from YouTube. The first one is a number of questions from YouTube on any updates on the appropriations bill.
I think this morning, I think I spoke about it earlier, and I don't know if you had caught it when I talked about what the appropriations bill said. And so we don't know if it's going to be approved, because it's still got to go through Senate. But and we don't know if the Ming amendment so what happens is you've got the House, they go through conference, they approve bill, there's amendments to the bill. The Senate has a corollary bill, and then there's committee that kind of decides what is going to stay in and what is going to stay out. So this is a great time to alert folks, because I've had a lot of people that are, very politically connected, and we know a lot of senators as well. So they all seem to think that not understanding the full aspect of the Ming amendment, that it's really good. So the recapture, even if they take the recapture, like Charlie Oppenheim said, it's not going to get us back to the 2007 where all the levels are current. So what is going to happen? I think today they seem to be pretty positive on some key initiatives. I think they were saying last night that the Republicans are asking Chuck Schumer not to put it to vote until Monday, when they can work out some of the more minute details. So we'll have to see. We'll keep you posted on that.
All right. And this next one from YouTube also, I filed my downgrade EV3 in October 2020, and EAS AP I-140 got approved in March 2021. If I start working on my EAD instead of H-1B, will I lose my ability to interfile in EB2 in the future?
No, you're working on, well, I guess question number one is, when you say I want to work on my EAD instead of my H-1B, I'm going to assume that you mean working for another employer rather than your H-1B employer, because your I-140 has been approved, your I-45 has been pending 180 days. So if you're working in same or similar, so you should be able to port. And so I think you're saying, if I port using my EAD, would that affect my ability to interfile? No. The working with an employer other than your H-1B employer without filing for an amendment of your H-1B only means your H-1B will not be valid. And that's okay. I'd always like my H-1B to be valid, because that gives you a safety net. That's what I've always preached. But that doesn't hinder your ability to interfile.
Okay. This next one also is from YouTube. My priority date is February 2013. I downgraded EB3 in October 2020, and I-140 is still pending. Should I do premium processing for EB3 I-140, since final action date for EB3 is July 2013? Will it speed up GC?
Yes.
All right. Here is Mr. Tufan Ali. Hey ho, Janab, kaise ho aap? My EB2 priority date is February 6, 2015. I have a teenage daughter, 17 years. Do you think it's worth to downgrade to EB3 in premium processing now?
Well, if you keep it in regular processing, if you file and you let it go into regular processing, you can add on the CSPA date because your priority date is 2015. And we don't know at what point 2015 will be reached. So the more, the longer time that you have to add on to the CSPA date, the better it is. I wouldn't premium process it.
Okay. Next one is from an anonymous attendee. My visa status is a STEM OPT, and currently I'm working. I think we already answered this. Well, I think you were frozen probably, I'm not sure. It says you want to travel to India. Is there any travel ban for STEM OPT status to travel to India?
There is, it's not, the problem is, remember, traveling back from India is, well, first of all, if you've got a valid visa, that's fine. I think for students, there is, it's relaxed in terms of the travel ban. STEM OPTs, I always tell them that if you're going to travel, make sure you have pay stubs, current employer letter from your employer, that outlines that you're going on vacation, but you're going to come back and continue to work for them.
All right. Next one is from VJ Yen. Hi, Chala Law Group. Can we apply for a litigation for E3D and EAD as dependent visas are losing jobs due to processing delays in EAD and visa approvals? Thanks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there are several lawsuits that are already out there. So I don't know if tacking another one on would really help, but there are lawsuits out there that are dealing with the processing delays, and hopefully one of them will. And right now, it's not a question of an administration that is not sympathetic or is not concerned that the backlog should be fixed. The issue is the logistics. So I think Kara just posted up that the USCIS director is on the calendar for the Senate to confirm, but not confirm it unless you have somebody at the head. At least, I don't think she'll have problems with the confirmation. But you don't have any, you've got the DHS head, but they're dealing with everything under the Department of Homeland Security, not just the USCIS. But, you could join one of the lawsuits that is in place. I think there are at least 2 or 3, and I think a couple of them have merged. I posted this up again in case folks are joining a new
I think we lost you for a minute.
people that try to help.
Sorry, folks. She should be up shortly. While she's coming back.
Hello, I'm back. the internet becomes unstable. Hello?
Yeah, I
Can you
think
guys hear me?
you lost you for about 3 minutes now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We lost you for 3 minutes.
Right. The lawn when people come, for some reason that impacts so I think we've got to start making sure that they don't come on a Wednesday. Because then when they started coming, that's when we had issues. Am I still frozen? Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see you, hear you, but we lost you for the last 3 minutes.
Okay. So I had posted this up again with our cello law group because we're going to post resources on it. And all you have to do is put your camera up, open up your camera on your iPhone, and you can get a link for our Telegram group. This is a link for our weekly webinars, especially for you folks on YouTube. You can register for our weekly webinars, and perhaps I will do them from the office, even though you'll hear the phone ringing. We won't have to worry about this internet stuff. And then here's our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great resources on our YouTube channel. And all you have to do is, again, take your phone up, open up your camera, and then you can subscribe. You'll never know that when we upload new resources to YouTube. And I love to hear from you, so I hope you comment and share. Okay, Shaker.
Well, it's close to 1 o'clock, so I'm not sure how much time you have.
Well, do you want to ask at least another, because of the internet problem, a couple more questions?
I will take the next one from an anonymous attendee. Hi, Lakshmi Garu. Thanks for your webinars. I have a question. After 485 is filed, does the service center always sends the file to field office? I'm current past 2 months and the case is still with MSC, no action. It hasn't been sent to field office.
Why don't you check and see, because usually, is your I-140 approved? If your I-140 is approved, they should have sent it down to the field office for further processing.
While I'm waiting for him to respond in the chat, we take the next question. Lakshmi Garu, thank you so much. My PD is August 2011. I want to apply separate I-485 for EB2 and EB3. I don't like interfiling. So my question is, what pros and cons of 2 I-485s?
On the webinar that I think is referenced in our chat earlier, I talk about how the regulations don't preclude having 2 adjustment of status pending. The regulations state you can only adjust on 1. So there's no bar or ban from allowing you to have 245 pending. Probably at some point, the USCIS will say to you, hey, buddy, you've got 2 pending, pick which one you want to pursue. And that's it. You withdraw the other.
All right, and the gentleman before me asked for I-140s approved. He said yes in the chat.
Okay, then what you should do is try to contact the USCIS. I think we shared in the link ways in which you can contact them to find out why it hasn't been forwarded to the local office yet.
Next one is from Varun K. I think he's got 2 or 1 same question, but this is a question regarding I-140 premium processing. How is the current trend on sending requests for premium processing on I-140, which was filed concurrent with EB2 to EB3 downgrade? Mine is a Texas center. I'm concerned if it will get rejected as the PP was sent with copy of PERM, not original? Thank you.
Well, if you did a downgrade, it wouldn't have the original. But the USCIS requests it from DOL, from DOL. And we've done several upgrades to premium processing. And if they have it, if they have a copy of the PERM from DOL, they'll premium process it. If they don't, they'll return you your fees. So there's no downside to doing this. If you do this and they have it, they'll accept it and they'll upgrade it. If you do it and they don't have it, they'll just send your fees back. There were some people on the Telegram group that talked about how they sent in a request for an upgrade 3 times before it was accepted. So it doesn't hurt you if you do that. So that may be something you want to think about because there's no downside to that.
All right, next one is from Krish S. Hi, currently I'm in H4, but I have proposed, currently I'm in H4, but I have approved I-140. My priority date would be in 2015. When the dates become current, if I want to apply 485, do I need to switch to H1 or still file in H4 also?
Can you say that again?
He says, I'm in H4, but I have approved I-140. My priority date is 2015. When the dates become current, if I want to apply for I-485, do I need to switch to H1 or still file in H4?
No, you can file in H4.
All right. Next one is from RJ. Have you started seeing EB2 to EB3 downgrade cases, not premium, approved since October 2020? What is your expectation from USCIS for processing these?
Yeah, I think the processing time right now for a non-premium case, I think is anywhere from 9 to 11 months. So most of ours that we've seen approved, Kara can correct me if I'm wrong, have been our premium cases. No, I think in fact, I think John talked about yesterday one case where it was a regular and we didn't premium it, so I think we're starting to see those approvals now, but most of the cases that have been approved have been premium.
All right, next one is from
Kara's clarifying that our premium cases have been approved, but not regular processing.
Next one is from Srini Rao. Can student continue education in university after filing I-485 and final action date current as currently on F-1?
Yeah, I mean, and in fact, if you've got your EAD pursuant to your adjustment, you can even work on the EAD. So if you're an F-1, you just can't travel until you get your travel documents. You can't work until you get your work documents. But other than that, there's no problem with you. There are people that are on other statuses that file adjustments. It's not just H's and L's. They're just not dual intent. So you can't travel until you get your AP, and you can't work until you get your work authorization.
All right, next one is a couple of questions from YouTube. My EB3 priority date is July 2014. What are the chances of getting my date in 2022?
He says the EB2.
My EB3 priority date.
Oh, is which date in?
My EB3 priority date is July 2014.
July 2014. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable. It's reasonable to expect a 2014 date. I mean, I know that Oppenheim said that EB3 final action dates for September will be announced as January 1st, 2014. So July 2014, 6 months later, we'll see. He's now stating that we're not going to see that rapid movement in the first couple of months. There may be a retrogression closer to next summer. So, if you're lucky, somewhere in between March and June, your numbers may be current.
All right. Can you give us an update on travel ban on B1, B2?
Yeah, right now they're mainly focused on, there are two things. One is the pandemic ban, and the other is the visa processing. And I think we have a memo on this. I think Kara will share it so you can, there she goes. So you can see what the latest is and what your restrictions may be.
All right. Next question is from JS. Any chance of EB3 to September 2014 becoming current this year?
No, I doubt that.
From YouTube, prediction for filing dates and final action dates for EB2 in October visa bulletin for India.
I could do that. I could make so much money predicting the lottery numbers and, going to Las Vegas and hitting the slots. Unfortunately, really, because there's so much uncertainty with the legislation and other things, it's hard to predict what the numbers would be.
Next one is from Sanjay Pathak. My I-485 is filed last November, and this month my company filed H-1B amendment due to project changes. Does this impact my I-485?
No.
All right. Warren is asking, my PD is predicted to be current in September 1st. VB, does sending medicals before that, before PD is current and without an RFE is advisable or not?
There are many trains of thought on this. There are some people that say, oh, but the USCIS says wait till the RFE. It doesn't say you can't send it, just says wait for an RFE. There is trying to understand whether your file is at the local office or still at the service center. And you can do that through EMA. I have always tried to affirmatively send in the medicals because an RFE, as the Cato Institute pointed out, an RFE and resubmission can be the reason for a 2 to 4 month delay. But if given your stage of the process, let's say your I-140 wasn't approved yet and you didn't submit your medicals, that is a very good case to go ahead and send it in without waiting. Because without the I-140 approval, they can't send it to the local office. Some people were worried that they can't match up the medicals with the I-140. I think if you send it in, and we're doing it for some people now, where you reference the receipt number, clearly outline the name, and I think in our Telegram group, so if you haven't joined it, join the Telegram group. The links are in the chat. We actually put together a template letter that shows how you can do that.
All right, Michael Tellis wants to know, can you switch jobs and travel in and out of the country if your EAD AP has expired, but you are in the 6 months grace period after the expiration of the current EAD AP and are waiting for the renewal to be approved, assuming you obviously filed for renewal prior to EAD AP expiration?
Well, do you have a valid underlying H-1B visa?
Michael, if you can answer in the chat, I can relay it quickly.
because you need a travel document, Michael. You can work during the grace period, the 180 days, but you can't travel either without.
He says,
no,
I won't.
no. Yeah, no, you got to wait for the AP.
Okay, how much time more?
I think we can take one last question.
One last question. Okay.
Because although you guys didn't hear me, I was continuously talking, so.
It's an anonymous attendee. My H-1B petition is valid till August 2023. My H-1 visa stamping is already expired. If I go to India and enter US using AP card, but do not use my EAD, as I'm working with the same employer, do I lose my H-1 immigration status?
No. You can enter on an AP or you can enter on an H-1B visa. The only time you lose your H-1B status is if you work on your EAD for an employer other than your H-1B employer.
That's it. And yeah, I've got a couple of questions more, but since you're run out of time.
Well,
if you didn't answer any questions, please do send it to info@shalala.com. We're glad to send you the response as quickly as we can.
And we may do another Telegram live this week. So, and all I do on that is answer questions. And so if you haven't joined our Telegram group, join that and we can hopefully answer some of your questions then. I want to thank my team who puts this all together. So please, the one thing you can do for them and you can do for me, because it does take a lot of effort every week to put these webinars together, is to share this with your friends so we can grow our community. We want to say a special happy birthday to Kara, who had her birthday yesterday, and she is, the MVP, if you will, of everything that happens in our office. So let's all wish Kara a very happy belated birthday. And there's Peter Larson. Yay, Kara, yes. And we want to thank Shaker for moderating this event for us. I hope to see you all next week. If you haven't joined us on Telegram, please do, because we may have a Telegram live. And it's nice because it's like we're sitting down together at a table and I'm just answering your questions. And when folks ask me, can you give me some resources? Can you send me this regulation so I can share it with my employer? We're doing that. So that's kind of a pretty nice thing to be able to have during the week. So you all stay safe, and Shaker, thank you again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'll see you all next week.
I was waiting for you to say,
stay classy.
Stay classy. That's it.